get started. My name is Darren Debris. I'm a retired Marine. I worked at Connect North America as a program manager for the USMC Counter Radio Controlled IED Warfare Office, the manager of business systems. I'm managing consultant here with X Tilde. I have a bachelor's in information systems management, and I'm working on my master's in management information technology. Should finish that up in July. And amazingly, I have a little bit of a SharePoint and InfoPath experience across the spectrum. I also have Dean with me, Draper from K2, and we'll get to him a little bit later in the presentation. So a little bit about X Tilde. X Tilde provides consulting services to build business applications within SharePoint. We do build custom forms, workflows, as well as provide migration services and some customized training. We have won several awards for our work, and many of our customer reviews are available online. Some of our customers range from 30 users in Office 365 to over 100,000 users in on-premise environments with our government customers. While we service all verticals, we have a focus on federal and federal contractors and associations. And of course, we partner with K2 to help us with our solutions. X Tilde has leveraged InfoPath solutions in the past, with Microsoft recently announcing that they will no longer be investing in it. We would partner with K2 to do Smart Forms, which is a dynamic, fully integrated forms platform that can aggregate data from multiple lines of businesses into a single view, and we can combine it with workflows and forms. And together with X Tilde, we do our best to provide you with a great, robust contract management solution. And Dean's going to give us a really cool demonstration a little bit later in the presentation. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover why contract management is critical, some of the desired outcomes of a contract management system at a high level, why we recommend using SharePoint and K2 for contract management, kind of the applications of a contract management system overview, some features, SharePoint features that contract management systems can use, of course, K2 for SharePoint enhanced features, and an overview of our applications for our contract management system. Dean's going to give us that nice, cool K2 demonstration, and then we'll go ahead and roll into the questions and answers period. So why is contract management critical to a company? It's critical because everything around the business, especially in government contracting, revolves around the contract, everything. Agreements that contain the terms and conditions as well as obligations from the customer and from the government contractor are explicitly listed there. A good contracts management system will be pretty easy to access central documents. It will link to subcontracts and procurement opportunities or procurement things, track important data, provide that quick access to key information, and have really cool and quick, easy reporting, along with provide that nice foundation for BI activities. And of course, it should support audits in an easy and clean fashion. And of course, the biggest one, if you're a government contractor, is support DCA compliance, right? CAS, FAR, TINA, things like that. We definitely want to make sure that your contract management system meets that requirement. So what is the desired outcome? Typically, it's to provide, exceed corporate or operational or business unit contract requirements. Some of the goals, right, is to increase contract management efficiency, right? We want to be 100% compliant. That's our goal, is to be 100% compliant with all the regulations, state and federal. Okay, we want to reduce labor qualification errors. We want better tracking of not just contracts, but NDAs and TAs. We want to increase proposal support and data integration from the BD activity, opportunity tracking, right into the contracts. And we obviously want to reduce audit preparation support as much as we want the system to help us do that. So what are some of the applications we've done in the past and have seen that really support those goals? So a proposal system, I put electronic in front of all of them, but it's a proposal system, a contract brief. If you are out there and you are a government contractor, you, in some form or fashion, you probably have a contract brief. Labor qualifications, really critical. Contract performance reviews, NDAs and TAs, work at risk, OCIs, and of course the Audit Center. Now this isn't a comprehensive list of everything, but this is a nice little sampling of some of the projects or applications that will support those goals to get you that desired outcome. So why use SharePoint for contracts management? First of all, it's a very flexible platform. It's key to remember that SharePoint is not an application, it's actually a platform. You can do it on-premise or in the cloud. It does provide pretty good integration with other line of business systems. A lot of companies that we've worked with in the past already have SharePoint in one form or fashion, and they're already paying for that. So when we go back to costs, licensing, all right, so in that case, if you've already got SharePoint, a lot of applications can be created or bolted onto SharePoint that will help improve your business without having to pay extra licensing costs. Very quick customizations, so that gives you that nice business agility when things need to change. It's got a pretty robust business intelligence capability as well. All right, so let's get to our first poll, and you should see it here in just a second. You go ahead and fill that out. So one of the cool things about SharePoint that we found when you're using it for contracts management is that, there we go. I see everybody's go ahead and get there. So we got 50% IT support. We're moving. Good, good. All right. So it looks like we've gotten about 67% of you out there are IT folks and 30% are business users. That makes Dean very happy. I'm going to go ahead and close it out for right now. All right. So moving on to the next one, let's talk a little bit about contract management applications and overview. Right, so what are we talking about here? So I've broken it down into phases and the departments that support it. This is pretty generic. It's not totally encompassing, but it generally maps out to what most companies provide or do. Right, so in the opportunity phase, look, we have track bids. This is our BD, business development, opportunity tracking, OCIs. Well, this is typically a contracts function. A lot of times this happens in the opportunity phase. NDAs and TAs, of course, it spans the spectrum just about really, but for our presentation, we put them in the beginning. Of course, proposal phase. So we've got the proposal system. We've got an HR application as well. Then we got the award and the performance phases right there. So that's where we're talking about our contract briefs or labor qualification forms, subcontracts, contract briefs, work at risks, and some other things that support other departments. And of course, the closeout. We want to be able to close everything out efficiently and quickly and track it. And of course, the Audit Center is ongoing and forever in this particular function. So what we're talking about now is the quick overview of the SharePoint features that we use in our contracts management. Excuse me, and they're pretty good. But the lists, the libraries, these are all basic SharePoint features that we're going to manipulate and use to go ahead and create that contract management system for ease of use. Content type, SharePoint Designer, that's a little bit for some of the workflows and stuff we want to be able to do to customize them better. Some wikis, Excel and Excel services, and of course our K2 Smart Forms. We'll definitely be using those. So let's dive right in about what kind of applications and an overview of each of the kind of applications. So the track biz, what are we talking about? So we're talking about this is the opportunity tracking, right? It's designed to really support business development, opportunity tracking, and proposal efforts. It brings everything into one authoritative source in SharePoint to go ahead and track your opportunities and have it integrate with the other applications, your OCI, NDAs, TS, TAs, right, in the proposal system. It's quick and easy to modify. We're going back to the agility. And it also, it's very easy to report and provide reporting and dashboards. Now, the cool thing about SharePoint, we talked about it earlier, is if you have Salesforce or some other type of application that you're doing opportunity tracking in, SharePoint can integrate into that and still pull it into these other systems. But if you have it all in one, it works well. So the non-disclosure agreement and teaming agreement, this is really pretty cool capability where you provide the users the ability to go ahead and do an NDA and TA request, right? And it provides, it's designed to go ahead and take that request, populate your templated NDA and TA for coordination, and then you can attach the signed NDA back to the request, and it notifies everyone in the chain that the NDA is available. And of course, it captures all those important metrics about when was it signed, who the company was, how long does it last for, all those types of things. What's the work share, right? Very cool. The ability to aggregate the data from other lines of business into a single view via the K2 smart forms is really cool as well. It provides contract procurement as a means of serially logging and tracking the NDAs and TAs. And it's pretty standard. You're going to see this in all the slides, so I'm not necessarily going to go all over each one of them, but the connections, most of these forms can connect to just about everything else within the contract management applications we're talking about. They can be standalone, or we can pull the information from other systems if needed. The organizational conflict of interest. So if you're a large enough company, or you have lines of business that compete in the same market, you might have to do an organizational conflict of interest, right? And this provides a nice single authoritative source. Who initiated the OCI? Who said they didn't have an issue? If you do have an issue, let's resolve it. And also, you can connect the mitigation plan library right to this, so that whenever you have to go find something, or you have to prove that you have a mitigation plan, you can easily go to one location, find it, pull it out, and show the mitigation plan and the OCI that went with it. All right, so, and again, it connects to just about everything in there that are relevant to where you would want to see an EOCI, an organizational conflict of interest. The proposal system. So, again, contracts, for the most part, is involved, and most organizations is going to support the proposal process. Whether it's going to make sure that they submit the proposal to the government, and we want to track that. We want to track the pricing effort. A lot of companies have contracts do pricing, but if you have your own pricing department, there's a tab in there that you can go ahead and use for that as well. And this particular form can actually accommodate the routing and approval of the pricing to the correct organization based on your organizational and gate reviews when things have to be in the pricing. And it provides a nice central location where we have this proposal from a contract perspective. It pulls data right from the track biz. So if your track biz ID is number 1, you select that from the EPS system, it's going to pre-populate fields in the EPS right off the track biz. Right? That helps with your data quality, those BI efforts that you're trying to put together on later on. And for tracking and connecting things, what we did, it also provides a great way to provide metrics, win, loss, and the why. This is absolutely critical. Great, we won, great, we lost, but if we lost, why did we lose? That is one of the biggest things we found that most companies struggle with, is why are we losing these? And it provides you a way to capture that information, aggregate it, and make an intelligent business decision about where to go next and how to better prepare for your next proposals. And it also captures the contract person's name. Say again? The contract person's name and the receipt verification when they submit it to the government. The good thing about this as well is you can actually use the actual submitted proposal that was submitted into the library that's associated with the proposal system, and you'll always have the actual version of what you submitted in one location, and you can pull it out at any time and save it as a different name for the next proposal or a similar proposal, saving and reducing a lot of time in the preparation of proposals, which is everybody on here, if you've ever done proposals with the government, it can be a quick turnaround. The contract brief. This is the meat of the system right here from a contract perspective. This summary, some of them are an executive summary of a contract that is communicated across all stakeholders, and all stakeholders have access to that information. It's really, I've seen some that are 100 fields to 350 fields. It just depends on what each company's trying to track, what's important to them. Although we see most of them, you're tracking all your financial information from the contracts perspective in there, ODCs, all that kind of stuff, down to all the FAR clauses, all those types of things that are relevant are captured in there for that reporting purposes. They use it for kickoff briefs, so they get buy-in from the finance and accounting, they get buy-in from the program manager, the business unit or division, and who's doing what and when. And you can make it available to each and every one of those stakeholder groups or individuals as needed, right? And it reduces contract audit response time. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but Think about every one of your active or not active contracts available for an audit response in one location. Very cool, and you can report on it. We call it the self-serve reporting, which means that anybody who has access to this can go ahead and pull the data they need right from their desktop when they need it, and it should be as current as it was last updated in the system. Now, obviously, it connects to a lot of things. The track biz, it indirectly connects to it, the TA, the proposal system, OCIs, EPLQFs, the project labor qualification forms, all of that. This is a really cool system there. So let's talk a little bit about the project labor qualification form. This is really designed to support the labor qualification process, and it captures all the necessary information for an employee labor qualification. Of course, it tracks it all in one location, by project number, by contract, or whatever your particular company needs to track it by. It makes it available there. It connects to the ECB, the electronic contract brief. By that I mean when a program manager or HR, whoever does your labor qualification, needs to start one on an employee, they simply go in and select the project number, and all the contractual information that's required for labor qualification is automatically populated. And you can do electronic approvals through workflows. You can attach resumes, third-party background investigation information in there. And I know for a fact that that DCAA, KPMG, PwC have really enjoyed this particular product, this application, in my former life. They really thought it was the best thing they had seen in how to capture this information and make it available for audit. And like again, it ties right back to that contract brief. Very important. So the electronic work at risk, again, this is really kind of a contract / program finance, accounting application. So it supports the work at risk process by providing that, again, that single authoritative source connected to all the other applications, right, for approvals or denials, and collecting the supporting documentation on whether or not it's worth doing the work at risk. Takes this process out of the email, puts it into workflows, makes the information available for reporting quickly and easily, and tracking. And obviously it connects to the contract brief as well. Closeouts. This is a good one right here. So now that everything's done, we're going through this, and we're getting, we've gone through the contract, we're getting ready to close it out. So contract is typically responsible for starting and tracking the closeout process. This application provides that mechanism. It goes across your organization for whoever needs to do that closeout function. So we're talking accounting and finance, procurement, subcontracts. Although all those organizations or departments within your company have a stake in the contract closeout, and this provides a checklist, it provides digital signature capture when it's complete, and of course workflows to go ahead and move it through the system. All right, and it is connected to the contract brief or other things, other applications if you need it, no doubt. So the big one, the Audit Center. This is why most companies really enjoy SharePoint. It makes audits extremely easy, streamlining that ability to provide the audit material in a single location where auditors can access that information whether they're on-site or off-site. What does that mean? It means they don't necessarily have to be sitting in your office, and you don't have to pay for travel necessarily for them to come and audit your stuff. So in other companies, we've seen where they've had several contract administrators and other personnel trying to gather the data, get into a central location, or they just give the auditors direct access to their whole file system. In this particular case, by having an audit center, one person, a contracts coordinator, for example, could make sure the contractual information is available in a single library that the auditors have access to. Accounting and finance typically play a big part in this, and their reporting can also go in that library. And then workflows can happen, and then the auditors get access to just the information they've requested for the audit, and that's all they can see. And because it does not, it's not the original necessarily, it's kind of a copy. It is a copy of that information. The original still stays in your contract management system, and when you're done with the audit, you can delete that information without ever touching or worrying about your authoritative source information for the contract. Very cool. And DCA, PwC, KPMG have all positively responded to this and audits we've had in the past. Reporting and BI. So we talked about self-service reporting. Again, this is just a big overview. We're not getting into details here, deep details anyway. One of the things that we found that program managers, HR personnel, and other department personnel like is that they can have reports in Excel, which they're very comfortable with using, and all they have to do is click a button, and their report's automatically updated. And it's the same for everybody with that same report. It doesn't matter what it is. So you start to save what version am I in? What am I doing? What version is this? What version? You don't have to worry about that. You always have the latest version. And of course, Excel Services makes that available in the SharePoint, Performance Port, Power Pivot. All those are really cool tools that SharePoint or Microsoft come out with to support this particular activity. We really like it. It's very flexible, and we really like it. So let's go to the next poll. How does your company currently manage contracts? Just a quick question about how we do that. Okay, pretty good so far. Pretty good split. SharePoint share drives. Oh yeah, we've migrated them out of share drives into SharePoint. Filing cabinet. Oh wow, yeah. So it looks like a lot of you are actually using SharePoint one way or another to manage your contractual information. So that's good. That's good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dean Draper, and he's going to talk to you more about K2's capabilities.
Great, thanks a lot, Darren. I'm going to start out with a slide at first here. There we go, and give a little bit of an overview of what is K2, what problems do we solve. So at the bottom here we see a bunch of line of business systems. Some are platforms, but most are business systems that you would communicate with. K2 has a technology called Smart Objects, and those Smart Objects let us build catalogs, basically, of different line of business systems, and once that catalog's built, whether something's Oracle, SQL Server, SAP, it all looks and behaves the same to K2. Next is that we integrate tightly with SharePoint and Microsoft Dynamics CRM, also with some other technologies, but probably the tightest with SharePoint. And we allow through workflow systems and processes to do almost anything that a human would do in SharePoint. We allow you to automate that. And we do that across 2013, 2010, 2007. So we don't install our product and snap it into SharePoint. A K2 server sits outside of SharePoint and can utilize it very similar to the same way you can utilize any of the other things on the bottom of the screen. And lastly, we have a forms technology Darren has mentioned a few times called Smart Forms. Smart Forms is an HTML5 technology you design, build, and deploy in a browser. It lets you get to mobile. It supports all major browsers, and additionally, through our K2 workflow, you can communicate with users through emails, and we'll see that in the demo that I'm going to start up here. So what K2 is, if we look at this from a really high perspective, what K2 is letting us do is leverage our existing line of business systems, take information from those systems, integrate with a platform like SharePoint so that users can get to our forms. We can use it for content management, and then provide an interface that's everywhere. It's mobile, it's email, it's browser. Okay, so I'm going to bring up a virtual machine. So what we're looking at here is a page, and this is SharePoint 2010, and we've got a couple of smart forms embedded in it. And these smart forms are they're snapped in using web parts. And what I'm going to show you today is a contracts management solution, mostly geared towards routing. And we'll bring up the actual workflow. So this is the workflow piece of it, and it goes down. So this is a pretty moderate application. The thing to remember about K2 is that K2 will let you go from very simple applications to enterprise level, highly complex, high transactional applications. You don't outgrow it. This is something that can expand to greater and greater demands as your needs and as your applications mature. So what we're looking at here, before I start running it, and we'll start exercising this contract management solution, is it looks like a workflow, and that's what it is. Each one of these boxes is performing a certain number of steps. Some of them are collapsed, so we can't see what's inside them, but there's a number of things going on just to keep it kind of clean and simple. And then at certain points, we're going to get approve or rejects. We're going to get actions out of our users. So we're going to kick this off with a form, and then legal and F&A are both going to either approve or reject this contract. It's then going to move forward, and it's going to go to a country manager, at which time, based on the amount, it is either going to terminate and we're done, or it's going to go on to larger and larger reviews with the VP. And that's what we're seeing here, just more and more high-level reviews because the amount is large, is based on the amount. So when we look at SharePoint, I've got a link here that's going to kick off a smart form. And one of the nice things about smart forms is that you can pretty much put them anywhere in SharePoint. So here we have a pop-up in SharePoint running the smart form. This smart form consists of two pieces. We have this basically a light header here, and then the form pieces down here. The way so what smart forms is, what it does is it lets you accelerate your form generation process. In other words, it's helping you compress your development cycle. And there's a number of reasons that happens. It's by design. One of them is that our forms are built upon reusable components we call views. If you know InfoPath, then InfoPath has views too, but they work in a very different manner. Our views can be reused across forms, and they can also be gently repurposed in each form, because the rules that generate that basically are driving that component, that view, can be modified by the containing form. What that means is that I can write something once and reuse it in many different places, and its behavior can change in those different places, but I still have one component that I've created. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find, there's my T, I'll find my T. So what's happening here is this is called a picker control. And this picker control is reaching out and querying a database in this case. That database is then going to return information back to my control. And this is like one of many different controls that we provide. So I'm going to say, we'll go with a magnificent store. Our name will be Now for my value, I'm going to say 500,000. And what happens when I pick that, I get a little depiction here of what my process is going to look like. If I was to up that value a bit, and let's say 10 million, then I get a much larger flow. So this kind of application development is all done without code. So in really all our tools, our workflow developer and in smart forms, you're not coding by typing. You're coding by drag and drop. You can get to code if you need to extend the product, but for most things, it's not. You don't have to code or know how to code. And in this case, I'm going to say the contract owner is Bob. And this is the same lookup control, but I'm not going to open it up. I'm just going to hit return. And what it's in this case, it's tied to Active Directory. So I just searched Active Directory, which was much faster than my database search. And there's only one hit for Bob, so it went with that hit. If I had typed something that had multiple matches, I would have gotten a red line, and I'd have to somehow refine my match down. And that's just built into the control. Okay, so let's go here and see. Let's go. So I'll save this, and then I'll release it, which basically starts off our workflow. So our workflow's been kicked off. I do have email down here, and I'm going to cover a couple of things. I'm running as administrator. I have legal and F&A are both tied to administrator, and what that saves me from doing is having to log in as different people at different times, just to sort of streamline this demo. So you can see I got an email. And this email is just a little notification to tell me I've started my process and that I can get to my view flow. What we're about to see here is a report that shows the process in real time and lets me get at all the information in that process that I want users to be able to get at. So we've seen that the process has started. It's moved down these 2 steps, which are green, and now we're waiting at these blue steps. And I can click into a step, and I can see that we're waiting legal here, and I can see an F&A that we're waiting on the F&A group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decouple this, and I'm going to put this on the right. So we're going to keep on going back. Now this is real time, so as my process moves forward, this is going to track it. I don't have to keep on refreshing it or anything. And I'm just going to take this over here. Now what we see is in this top smart form that I now have 2 new tasks. So this smart form, I'm just going to expand it for a second here. This smart form is showing me what I have to do. So what K2 does is gets the right information to the right people at the right time. We're going to pull information from a line of business systems, use workflow, BPMN, to orchestrate things, and then present users with the right information at the right time. And the reason I can get that information at the right time is that as administrator, I'm basically subscribed to anything in K2 that will go to administrator or any group that I'm in. And if I click on this link, I'll get this view flow. So I always know where I'm at in the process if I have something to do, because I can click on a link and I get this view flow, and there's no question in that view flow where I'm at. I'm going to double click on here. And this is going to bring up a very simple smart form. So because I only have 15 minutes in this demo, I picked something that was very straightforward and simple. In this contracts management application, we're simply going through a set of approvals. We have, there's many examples of applications where we take a document and then we're building up the document as we go through the process. And even as part of the process, selecting what different sections of that document we're going to want to add, and having approvals tied around that. You can build very complex solutions around contracts management. This one's primarily around routing. So what we see here, again, I have my reusable components, and they are being reused. Here we've got a new view up here, which just simply gives me who I am, and I can take some actions down here. I can approve, deny, or I can return to edit. So in this case, we'll approve. And we're good. Now that we see that, the last thing we have here is we're waiting for F&A. So I'm going to open up email. And I can see that the F&A group got this email, and there's a bunch of pieces to it. So let's just take a look at that real quick. I'm going to reply to it, and that's going to be my action. So we see that we have the amount, and we have these. I can approve, deny, or return for edit. But I can also do some other things. I can delegate it, which means assign it to someone else. I can put it to sleep, which basically takes it off my task list for a certain amount of time. Now in this case, I'm just going to reply to K2, and I'm going to say I want to approve it. We call these smart actions. Now the beauty of smart actions is they work on any phone. They work anywhere. No matter where your user is, they can smart action on any device. Now what K2 will do is it will tell me that my action was accepted via email. It'll basically give me a confirmation, and then we'll move forward in the process. While that's happening, let's look down here, and what we see here. So the email polling just caught the email, so now it's going to move forward. Email isn't instantaneous. There can be a delay. What we see here is a list of all our contracts. So these are the things I need to do. These are my tasks. And if I've got more than contracts management going on, I'm using K2, let's say for expenses or for onboarding, for CapEx, whatever application is, those things would all be showing up here in this list. But down here, what we have is just simply things associated with this contracts management piece. And we look over here, we can see that we move forward, and we're now at the country manager. So in this case, because the amount is so small, once the country manager approves, we'll be complete. And I also have administrator in country manager, which is very convenient. And I'm going to approve, which is our happy path. So we'd expect this to move down and to the right, and we'll be done. Now, some other things that I can show you about this view flow is that I can go to any point in this view flow, and I can see what happened. So I can see that as administrator, I approve this step. And we can go here, and we can see that I approve that as legal too, which is the case because I was administrator for both of those. The next thing I want to go into is a little bit about reporting. So one of the things you get with a BPA, a business process automation platform like this, is you get a lot of business intelligence. So we're tracking at every step when, who, and how long. When this task came in and when it was done. But we're also recording at a bigger level just what was done. So in this demo, one of the other things that, time permitting, we could show is I could go into CRM and I could kick this workflow off from CRM. So we have very good integration with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We also integrate with SAP, you know, a number of systems. But in this case, we would use CRM and a form in CRM to kick off this workflow, and then the workflow would execute. So what we're looking at here is just a basic count of how many process instances have there been, and we can see that we're doing a lot more contract approval that have not originated from CRM than we had from CRM. And this can be across our organization, of course. So we can start getting, imagine a call center, or imagine any number of things where each activity kicks off a process that simply knowing the count of those processes becomes valuable. The other thing that we can give you is the duration of that process. How long is that process taking on average? And we can give you those numbers over time. So by month, what was the average duration of a process? The other thing we have here is we can actually get into the process, and we can start seeing how long we've been spending on each of the particular activities in that process. So what we see here is that we spent a lot of time in F&A, and we've also spent a lot of time in a region VP review. So this gives us an idea of where in the process we're spending our time. These reports are configurable. They're web parts in SharePoint. We provide a number of canned reports, pre-canned, they're just canned reports that you can use and put into SharePoint and really start building out your dashboarding. Now, in addition to that, you can build your own reports. So if you need more than what our reports provide, you can use smart forms to write reports. We expose our information in a lot of different ways. We definitely can write SSRS reports, SQL Server reporting services. Really, there's very few obstacles, if none, to getting to our information. So we want it to be consumable. Okay, so with that, that's my demo there. And now I'd like to